I told myself one rule when I started that job: do not catch feelings for anyone at work, and I kept that rule perfectly until the night the office went quiet and it was just the two of us. Okay, girls. I am Brooke Anderson, and honestly, I am still not over what happened that Tuesday evening in Midtown. I need you all to sit down for this one, because I have been holding this story inside me for weeks now, and I cannot keep to myself anymore. You know how I am. I tell you everything eventually. So pour yourself something warm, get comfortable, and let me take you back to that night, because what I am about to share with you changed something inside me that I did not even know needed changing. So I told you all about the divorce, 3 years of marriage gone, and I remember sitting in my tiny Brooklyn apartment on a Sunday night in October, eating cereal for dinner because I could not even think straight enough to cook a real meal, and I just decided, okay, Brooke, enough. You need to get up. You need to get back out there. Not into dating, not into anything like that, just back into the world. Back into routine, back into something that feels like you have a reason to wake up in the morning. So I updated my resume, I applied to a few places, and 2 weeks later I was sitting in a glass office on the 32nd floor of a building on 6th Avenue in Midtown, starting a brand new job at a marketing firm called Hartwell & Associates. Now girls, I want you to picture this with me. Midtown Manhattan in November. The streets outside are already cold, the yellow cabs are honking 24 hours a day. The Starbucks on the corner of West 52nd Street has a line out the door every single morning, and everyone around you is walking so fast that if you stop for even 2 seconds to look at your phone, you will get knocked right off the sidewalk. I loved it. I needed that energy. I needed to feel like I was part of something moving again. In that office, floor-to-ceiling windows, the whole city laid out below you like a map. I remember walking in on my first day and thinking, okay, this is it. This is the fresh start. I kept my head down those first few weeks, learned the systems, remembered everyone's names, brought coffee to my own desk every morning from the little Greek diner on West 53rd Street. Best coffee in the neighborhood. I am telling you right now, nothing touches it. I was professional, I was focused. I was exactly who I needed to be, and I told myself very clearly, Brooke Anderson, this is a workplace. These are your colleagues. Keep it clean, keep it simple. Do your job and go home to Brooklyn every night and feed your cat and watch your shows and heal. That was the plan. And then there was Daniel. Girls, I need you to understand something before I go any further. I did not go looking for this. I want you to know that. Daniel Carter was just there. He had been at Hartwell & Associates for 4 years already, a senior account manager. The kind of person who knew where everything was and how everything worked, and somehow never made you feel stupid for not knowing. He had this calm about him. Not arrogant calm. Not that annoying confidence some men walk around with like they own whatever room they are in. Quiet, still, like he had figured something out about life that most people are still running around trying to find. He was 31 years old, grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, moved to New York City 5 years ago for work. Lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hell's Kitchen, about 4 subway stops from the office on the A-line train. I know all of this because over those first few weeks we ended up talking more than I expected. Small things at first. The coffee machine in the break room on the 28th floor that never worked properly on Monday mornings. The client presentation that everyone was stressed about. The fact that we both thought the new sandwich place that opened on 7th Avenue was massively overrated. But I kept my rule. I kept my distance, I smiled, I was friendly. I was collegial, and every evening I took the L train back to Brooklyn, and I told myself, good job, Brooke. You did it again, no feelings, completely professional, gold star. And then came that Tuesday. It was the second week of December. Girls, I need you to feel this with me. New York City in December is something else entirely. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree was already lit up, the ice skating rink was packed every single evening, and the cold outside was that sharp, biting kind of cold that hits you the second you walk out of any building and reminds you immediately that you are alive. The whole city smells like roasted chestnuts and pretzels from the street carts, and there is something about December in Manhattan that makes everything feel a little more tender, a little more open, like even the city itself lets its guard down just slightly. We had a major client presentation the next morning, a huge account, the kind that the whole office had been working toward for 6 weeks straight. I had stayed late 3 nights that week already, and that Tuesday I was still at my desk at 9:30 in the evening. The floor was almost completely empty. The cleaning crew had already come and gone. The only lights still on were the ones above the row of desks near the windows where I was sitting, staring at my laptop screen, going through slide after slide after slide, trying to make sure every single number was right. And then I heard footsteps. I looked up and it was Daniel. He had his jacket off, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, a coffee cup in each hand. He walked over to my desk and set one of the cups down in front of me without saying a single word, just placed it there. And then he looked at me and said, and girls, I remember this exactly. He said, "You have been staring at that same slide for 11 minutes. I was watching from across the room. You need a break." I did not even know what to say. I just looked at him, and then looked at the coffee, and then looked back at him. And something about that, about someone noticing that I had been staring at the same slide for 11 minutes, something about being seen in that small and quiet way just completely undid me. We ended up sitting together by the windows. The whole city was glittering below us. You could see all the way down 6th Avenue, the lights stretching out like a river of gold, and the Empire State Building lit up in red and green for the holidays. We talked about the presentation at first, safe territory, numbers and timelines and client expectations. But then, and I cannot even tell you exactly how it happened, girls, I really cannot. We just kept talking about bigger things. He told me he had moved to New York City after a relationship ended badly, and that for the first year he had thrown himself so completely into work that he barely knew what month it was. I told him about the divorce, not everything but enough. Enough that he looked at me in a way that made me feel like he actually understood what I was saying underneath the words I was using. At some point I realized it was past 11:30 at night. The city outside was still moving, still alive the way New York City always is no matter what hour it gets. But the office around us had gone completely still, and we were still sitting there, still talking. And I remember looking at him mid-sentence about something. I think we had moved on to talking about Philadelphia versus New York City and which one actually has better pizza, which is an argument with only one correct answer, by the way. And I just stopped. I just went quiet for a second, because I realized sitting there in that warm office light with the December city spread out behind him like something out of a movie, that I had not felt this comfortable with another human being in a very, very long time. He noticed me go quiet. He did not make it weird. He just looked at me and said softly, and I smiled, "A real one? The kind that comes from somewhere you forgot was still there?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, yeah, I think I really am bi." We stayed another 45 minutes after that, just talking. When we finally packed up and rode the elevator down together and pushed through the glass doors out onto 6th Avenue, the cold hit us both at the same time and we laughed. Just this genuine, surprised laugh at how cold it was. And we stood there for a second on the sidewalk before going our separate ways. He took the A-line train north to Hell's Kitchen. I walked to the 50th Street station to take the D train to Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn and connect to the L line, home. And the whole way home, standing in that subway car, holding the overhead bar, watching the dark tunnel walls rushing past the windows, I kept thinking about that moment, that quiet Tuesday night on the 32nd floor, that coffee cup placed on my desk without a single word, that question, "You okay?" asked in exactly the right way at exactly the right moment. And girls, here is the thing I need you to really hear. It was not about him. Not entirely. It was about me. It was about realizing that somewhere inside me, underneath all the grief and the exhaustion and the rebuilding, there was still a version of Brooke Anderson who could sit next to someone and feel completely at ease, who could laugh about pizza and feel the city below her feet, and look out at the lights and feel something other than empty. That Tuesday night did not change everything overnight, but it started something, a quiet, gentle shift, like the very first sign of warmth after the longest winter you have ever lived through. And I think about that a lot, standing on that sidewalk on 6th Avenue in the December cold, both of us laughing at nothing, the whole city moving around us, and for just that one moment, not thinking about anything that came before or anything that might come next. Just that, just alive, girls. I have thought about that Tuesday night more times than I can count since it happened. Not because of what it was, but because of what it reminded me. It reminded me that healing does not always look like therapy sessions and long walks and journaling. Sometimes it looks like a coffee cup placed on your desk at 9:30 at night by someone who simply noticed you. Sometimes the moments that shift something inside you are the quietest ones. The ones with no grand gesture, No dramatic music, no announcement. Just two people in an empty office above a glittering city talking honestly, and somewhere in the middle of all of it, you remember who you are again. That is the thing about New York City that nobody really tells you. This city will break your heart in 1,000 ways. But if you let it, it will also put you back together in ways you never expected, and sometimes it uses the most ordinary Tuesday evenings to do it. Okay, girls, that is my story for today, and honestly, just telling it to you has me feeling all of those feelings all over again. If you are new here, welcome. I am so glad you found this little corner of the internet. Hit that subscribe button because I share stories like this every single week, and I promise you, every single one of them comes straight from the heart. And if this story reminded you of something you went through, or something you are going through right now, leave it in the comments below. I read every single one. I will see you in the next one, girls. Take care of yourselves out there.